This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. Siphon Filter is easily one of the best games on the PS1. Honestly, the entire PS1 trilogy is something that stands tall as a set of titles that I love and ones that I really enjoy revisiting as well. I'm sure many of you have titles that stick out to you when you think back to different generations. Maybe it's a bigger game that more people know about, or maybe it's something that flew under the radar. I feel like with Syphon, it sort of fits somewhere in the middle. When the games came out, they sold very well and generally well received by critics, and more importantly, the fans love them. But now it has been a few game generations since we have seen a new Syphon game. Outside of getting the re-releases on the PS5 and 4, Syphon has mostly fallen out of the public eye. I mean, we still don't have a proper way to play the Omega Strain on the PlayStation systems with its online intact. But with all that being said, I love revisiting these titles, and sometimes I just need an excuse to start talking about why Siphon Filter is just something that's great. Siphon Filter has you assuming the role of Gabe Logan, and you'll need to stop several terrorists throughout the story. Something that I always liked about Syphon was its sense of style and design when it comes to its combat. For one, the game is billed as a stealth action game, and it definitely has stealth elements and opportunities to be sneaky, or parts that just outright require it. But it's that switch between cinematic action and tactical action is what makes the action pop too. You have that sweeping and movie-like camera with the use of the target lock. This heightens the minute-to-minute action and provides the player with a fun perspective that again makes this stuff look easy, but it was probably something very tough to execute for the developers, like to get this element just right. On the flip side of it, you can go into first person at any time, where the game will allow you to lean, greatly providing you more tactical options. The cinematic target lock works well for running and gunning, whereas crouch walking, peeking around corners, and strategically taking out your foes is equally as rewarding. In many cases, the game will provide the player with opportunities to choose which option would be best for that situation. These are a set of tools along with your equipment to aid the player, and therefore with that freedom means that there is room for player preference and expression as well. Maybe you prefer that cinematic cam and like to live life on the edge with the dodge roll, or maybe you are taking things very slow as a means to conserve everything you have because you don't really know what is around each corner. Yes, Syphon is a linear game, but it's also a playground in some ways, provides a tool set that I always enjoyed playing around with. Syphon is such a super fun game. It sucks you in with its world and especially visual design. The look of many of these PS1 games that were going for that realistic looking environments have this sort of gritty edge to their look. Whether intentional or just based on what the hardware could do at the time, it gives them a different feel, and in pretty much all the cases I have seen stuff like this, it only really adds to the experience. Syphon especially, as you feel like you're fighting through something that is happening in present day, while also having that edge of covert ops and conspiracies going on too. I kind of look at this stuff like the difference in having a movie that is shot on film versus digital. Yeah, sure, the graphics are dated, but there's a style here that is just great. Plus, if you really want to make an argument for something like this or other stuff found within the world, just look at some of the other little details that you see that you don't even really see in common modern titles generations later, like being able to shoot out objects within the environment, having them react, like bottles, glass, and lights breaking. You can even shoot out some balloons if you so choose. Details on the enemies add another nice touch, with blood staying on their outfit depending on where you shoot them. It's stuff like this that you might not immediately notice being special, because it feels like something that should be there for any type of game. But when you take a step back to realize these elements start to really add up and contribute to the specialness of Syphon. I think it is important too that one thing I notice with games that I love is that I generally feel that pull to go back to them. Or at the drop of a hat I could start it right up then and there and start having a good time. It hits a level of comfort food status, almost like you have something reliable you can count on. I need something relaxing, something I know I will like. While the experience may not be completely new, that feeling of comfort comes from games like this. For me personally, Siphon Filter is one of those games. I have had many nights where I wanted to just play something, but I didn't want to take a chance on something new, but rather go back to an old favorite. Syphon was also an easy choice, plus it can be a bit dangerous depending on what time I decide to start it. Because with the great pacing, you'll start playing just a few levels and then end up beating the entire thing in one night. While the lack of sleep might suck, it's pretty much always worth it, especially for Syphon. This isn't really a review or even an analysis type video of the game, but rather just the ramblings of a superfan who always finds himself working his way back to those games. Something else that makes the experience always great is that stellar soundtrack. Chuck Dowd masterfully made one of the best soundtracks ever with it. It's dynamic, awesome, and there's no dud in the bunch. Siphon Filter, especially the first one, is one of those special titles that it just presents some of the very best that came from the PS1 era. From time to time, I like to think back to generations ago, and one thing that I think holds a lot of merit is that when you go back to those older generations, the limitations is honestly what helped to create that creativity that we saw with many of those titles at the time. That may sound a bit odd at first, but think about it for a moment. You have to play within a specific box. You only have so many resources to use, and in many cases, you only have so much time to finish your game. Also, that game had to be released in the most polished form it could be. There was no day one patch or roadmap that the developers could come out with trying to correct the direction of a failed launch. You either got it right on day one, or that could have been the end of you. While that does sound stressful at the same time, I think it very much pushed the people to do their very best. We saw a lot of instances of great talents that we look back on today, and how they managed to get their game to work, or improve on it up until the game was shipped. Part of this might sound like me putting on my old man hat, as I'm alluding to it being better back then. And yes, in many ways it was. Something that the current gaming medium needs is to do a better job at gaming preservation. Most of the Syphon titles are available on the PS4 and 5, as they were when they initially came out. Now sure, they offer some more options in how they are emulated on these consoles, but not as much as you can find with the PC. This at least gives players easy access to the games. At the same time, something I really like are the two accessibility features that are available to you, like being able to save your game anywhere along with being able to rewind. Both of these options can help a newcomer have a more accessible way to play these games. For example, if you're in one of the instant fail parts, you can just quickly rewind as opposed to just sitting through the same loading and then working your way back up to that point. Every time I play Syphon again, I think it would be great to see another new title within this series, and one that is within the same style of the PS1 games, but that's probably never going to happen. I can still wish for it though. What games do you love from the PS1? Are you a fan of the Syphon titles? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.